Have you ever wondered if breastfeeding ever gets easier? Maybe you're in those first few weeks exhausted, overwhelmed, and wondering if you're cut out for this. Well, today's guest, Brenna Rhodes, a mom of three, shares one of the most honest things I've heard. She said, "You never clock out." And yet today she can also say breastfeeding became easier, not because it stopped being a sacrifice, but because she grew in confidence. So, if you need encouragement today, this episode is for you. Come on into the podcast. Welcome to Cycles and Sanctity, the podcast where Catholic women learn to think clearly, feel deeply, and live confidently in the truth of who God created them to be. I'm Mama Jane.
And I'm Mama Vicki, your Catholic womanhood coaches. We believe womanhood is a gift to be embraced, never managed or met with shame. Our cycles are God's design, a tool for self-knowledge, deeper prayer, and holiness.
We help women heal mentally, emotionally, and spiritually so they can live with clarity, peace, and confidence.
If you're ready to trust your body, understand your interior life, and walk more freely with God, you're in the right place.
Well, welcome back, Catholic Divas. We are so excited for our another episode of Cycles and Sanctity. Hello, Mama Vicki.
Hey, Mama Jane. Yes, another fun episode where we get to talk about breastfeeding.
That's right. We're in our jam, right?
Yes, and we have a really awesome guest today. Happens to be somebody I can claim, my daughter-in-law. She's married to my second son, and her name is Brenna Rhodes. And she is a mom of three.
Yes.
I can't believe it. I mean, I can't believe you've had three babies.
Three now.
I know.
It's crazy to say out loud.
Yes, I know. That's awesome. Well, why don't you introduce yourself? Add a little bit more. It's just so exciting. Yeah, so I'm her aunt, and it's just so great to see. The last time I saw you, you were pregnant, but I have seen you grow into your motherhood with each child. So tell us a little bit more about yourself, because I know there's more to just being Mama Vicki's daughter-in-law.
Very much more, yes.
Yeah. So, like you said, Mama three, happily married to Dallas, Vicky's second son. I grew up in a military family. I'm heavily from the Kansas City, Leavenworth area now. I am an RN, although right now I'm a stay-at-home mom to the three kiddos. And yeah, being a mom as over-consuming as it becomes your number one title. I still got a little bit of something to myself. So yeah, I'm a nurse, I'm a daughter, I'm a friend, but more than anything, I'm a mom.
Yes, that's right. Awesome. Well, that's beautiful. So let me ask you a question. So looking back at breastfeeding your first baby, what was the biggest struggles and how did you get the support to change that experience?
I think with breastfeeding my first, it's not only was I new to breastfeeding, but I was a new parent in general. And when you go from being just yourself to being a parent, being a mom, and like all of life changes, as y'all know, just you become unable just to hop in the car and go. It's a total life change. And especially when you're breastfeeding, I feel like, because you have a baby who's tethered to you pretty much the entire day. And I mean, I'm somebody who has always exclusively breastfed. I'm not much of a pumper, except if I really, really have to. And so I had to just get used to the fact that I have a baby who wants to be on me 24/7, which is wonderful, but also makes you have less independence than you did beforehand, which again, it just comes with the territory. But as you know, when you're a new mom and you're learning to breastfeed for the first time, and that's what you are doing, and rather than giving bottles or pumping or whatever, you do a lot of sitting and breastfeeding.
Yes.
And And so that's a big change for, I think, a lot of women to get used to, that you have another human being constantly tethered to you.
I love
Yeah,
that testimony, Brenna, because so many women, all we do is say, hey, you should breastfeed, it's best for your baby. But actually, what that looks like is you being topless or at least have access to your breasts 24 hours a day in the beginning. I
yeah,
mean,
Absolutely.
it is just so, and just that alone can be so overwhelming because you just don't expect it. I mean, we plan for all the cute clothes and we plan for all the new grandparents and uncles and aunts. Gosh knows your kids have a ton of them on each side, and you
Hmm.
don't think about, and I don't know, I'm hoping this podcast is a way to tell women that this is normal, this is what it looks like. So
It
when you're
is.
sitting there morning, noon, and night still breastfeeding, that this is
Mhm.
normal.
Yeah, it's a huge sacrifice.
yeah,
And that's, I think it's so overwhelming. I remember, even though for me it was never a question, I was always going to breastfeed. I'm very fortunate to have a breastfeeding family on both sides, both my mom and my family who are very pro breastfeeding and supportive, as well as having Vicki as my mother-in-law, who's a lactation consultant and a labor and delivery nurse and breastfed 8 babies of her own. Uh, I walked into it knowing that that was always going to be it. I never had a plan B. But even with that perspective going into it, I remember in the first couple weeks of being like, oh my gosh, this is 24/7. You never clock out, you know? And it's hard. It's very hard at first. And those days were super overwhelming. I mean, it's I have to put myself back into those shoes because being a third time mom, when I talk about breastfeeding, it looks so drastically different. You know, it's nothing to me now, but back in those first early days it was not second nature. Like everyone, of course breastfeeding is natural and it should be second nature, but a it's a little bit more complex than that for a lot of women. And
yeah,
again, I'm very very fortunate to have had good supply and a good baby who latches well and all that.
yeah.
So
I
even with like all of the things, all the support, all of the things that are going right, it was still overwhelming.
Yeah, so I want to ask you, and I really appreciate that because you said two different a point important things I want to lean in on. First of all, you said I knew I was going to breastfeed. That was like a no-brainer. I had all the support. I knew what breastfeeding looked like, or at least I had the conversation and both sides. So breastfeeding was the way I was going to go. And yet, experiencing breastfeeding and what that looks like was a completely new thing. And so I'm wondering, what were you telling yourself during those hard days in the early years, in the early weeks of that first baby? How are you
Just
getting over that like hump of I'm done, I'm quit, you know?
yeah, I think it's a dig deep for your baby type of thing. And I just, yes, there's a lot of alternative ways to feed your baby, but really, truly, at the end of the day, it's scientifically known that breastfeeding is the best way to feed your baby. And so I knew that I would never let myself quit. Um, so it was that. It was just, I knew that that's the best thing for my baby, so I'm going to do it. As hard as it is, as overwhelming as it could have been when I was, 3 or 4 days postpartum and dealing with the crazy painful engorgement. And, you know, I, you just do it. You just get through it. It really, in my opinion, is just a mental toughness. You just persevere. And
Hmm.
that's how it was for me.
Yeah, I love that because this is another part of our message with this podcast is the fact that unfortunately many in this day and age we don't regard and we don't honor birthing, breastfeeding, trusting our body, cycling, understanding what it all entails to be a woman. And again, we aren't really embraced. We don't have that. There's a there's a beautiful book that Mama Vicky and I always refer to. It's called The Red Tent. And if you're ever want to watch, listen, read a historical fiction, while you're sitting there breastfeeding. I know I read a lot of books when I was, those first days of breastfeeding. But anyway, but the whole concept is the red tent. Like everyone menstruated together. All of the women would come together in the nomadic, you know, with Abraham, not Abraham, Isaac. Jacob, sorry. Forgot the guy. Anyway, all the women, and that's where they would birth, and that's where they would, help each other. And the little ones would be in there. And then there would come a time when, like, the boys were like, okay, now you go out. You don't get to stay in here. We just don't have that anymore.
Yeah, that's something I go on a tangent about all the time. That for me, it's the multi-generational households that we've gotten so used to. Everybody has to have their own house and their own place to live, and it's so isolating. And especially when you are a new mom who, like, for example, for me, although Dallas is one of 8 kids, I'm one of 3. We have several, step siblings and cousins and friends and whatnot. I was the only person in my inner circle, or the first person, I should say, to have a baby.
Yeah.
And so in that moment, I didn't have somebody to my left and right who was going through it at the same time as me. And when you have a support group, a community like that, I can imagine it is a lot easier.
Hmm.
Um, so that would be a beautiful thing to be able to have all those women together going
Mhm.
through it versus doing it on your own.
Yeah. And
Right. It
then,
just gives that, like we talked about before, support groups, just give that, whether, yes, the non-traditional or the formerly traditional multi-generational family, but just as a woman's to woman's group, just that, like, you don't have to speak it. Just a gentle
Mhm.
smile or like a laugh, like, girl, been there. I
Oh, yeah.
I hear you. Just that little encouragement can really go a long way.
mhm.
Hmm. I mean,
So,
we see it in your Lil H.A. League meetings a lot, that
yes.
just having someone, even if nobody has answers for you, particularly, even if it's something that you just have to walk your own walk, you just
Yes.
have to dig deep and get through it. Having someone look at you and be like, yes, it is hard. It is so hard. That
Hmm.
does everything.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Just the acknowledgement of, I am going through it. I am not the only one. Women have been doing this for
Since,
forever,
Dawn of
yeah.
time.
forever. But just having someone be like, yes, it really is, and you can do it. That's
Yeah.
huge.
And I love that aspect also as of like modeling, right? Like I remember
Mhm.
the first time I went to a La Leche League lead meeting and seeing a mother tandem nurse. I had heard about tandem nursing, nursing to, she was nursing her
Mhm.
toddler and nursing her newborn, right? And then when it came time, I was pregnant with my third. My husband was in Korea, and I just couldn't figure out, like, oh my gosh, how am I going to try to wean this kid without my partner? Like I was a single mom.
Mhm.
And thanks be to God, my doctor, who is very, very pro breastfeeding, very just pro natural everything. And he's like, well, that's why you have two breasts. You can nurse two people, you know. But
Just matter of fact.
and I mean, he had kind of told me that, but once I went and I saw, and again, it's that community, right? Like, oh, this mom, and especially like, what we're doing is we're creating this workshop of like online, at least maybe online community to have everybody come and help and talk and hear their stories. Because sometimes just hearing someone else's story gives you a little bit better picture.
Hmm. That's absolutely true.
So,
That's
I was just, yeah, I was just, so I just think it's even for like speaking personally, like, but breastfeeding your second baby, it's kind of like having your second baby. Like you're excited, and then when that first real labor pain hits, you're like, oh man, oh my gosh, I remember what this entails. I've
back to it.
conveniently forgotten that.
Yeah.
But
My
then,
Sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was gonna say my Nana always said that, you get amnesia after each birth so that
Yeah,
you want to have more.
that's
Oh,
right.
for sure.
Your body makes you forget about this struggle so that you just dive right back in.
And
That's
I can
right.
say that even about breastfeeding, I one of my favorite analogies, I had a co-leader tell me one time, like if you have a yardstick, look at 1 inch, 2 inches. So if we breastfeed for a year, 2 years, even 3 years, get crazy. If you went 5 on a yardstick, it's
Yes.
only such a wee part of your life, and it's very
Yeah,
easy to get consumed, like, oh my gosh, this will never end. But I
I
do think
know.
the second kiddo, and hopefully that, I think I loved that. Okay, I knew more. Well, I got this one to this age at least. You know what I mean? I was able to
Yes.
do it. I got this far in my breastfeeding journey. So you have a little confidence, but then
Yes.
as nature would have it, each baby is a little different.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I tell people all the time because each of my pregnancies have overlapped my breastfeeding journey. I have always, gotten pregnant with the next one while I was still breastfeeding. So my oldest is 4.5. I have been pregnant or breastfeeding for over 5 years now,
Yeah.
continuously, without any
Yeah.
breaks.
Yeah.
Yep.
And but when you think about it like that on a ruler stick, it really will be just a blip. And it's so I can't even think about that now that like one day there will not be another day that I breastfeed.
Yeah.
And
That's
so even
why
on those hard days, it really is. It's so short.
ladies my age cry a lot. Like,
I
how
know.
Claire always makes fun of me crying because it's like so bittersweet.
Oh, totally. I even do it. I mean, I've got a 4.5-year-old, and I even look back at her 2-year-old pictures, and I'm like, she's never gonna be that small anymore.
Yeah.
So it is,
Exactly.
gosh, I try to take that wisdom and savor every single moment of it because I know how fleeting. With the first one, you don't know how quick it goes.
Right. You're so
You know?
excited for them to do the next thing, like
Yeah.
Yes.
roll over, or crawl, or walk, or eat, or
Yeah.
grow teeth, or whatever. You're like, oh, so
I
exciting.
know. See, now with my third, like at first I was a little bit worried about how much she was gaining, and now she's gotten a little chunkier and a little bigger, and I'm like, oh my gosh, you're already outside of the itty bitty phase. So it's so beautiful just to be able to absorb it. But I always say I just cannot soak it in enough. It
Yes.
goes too fast for me
And
to
you
be
just
able
do
to
it so well. You really
fully.
do. You've done a
Oh
great
man,
job
thank
of
you.
embracing that and being okay. You're like, all right, cool. Well, the house is a little crazy because no matter how many times you reorganize the toy room, every toy is immediately out on the box seconds later.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I mean, believe listeners, her house is very clean and wonderful, but toddlers live there. So,
Yeah.
and you're able to embrace, like, what, this is where we are right now.
Yeah.
This is how we are, because it doesn't stay like that. And I am a firm believer is breastfeeding teaches you how to parent all along, because you're right. So many times in motherhood, you have to dig deep.
It's just
And
selfless. It's completely a selfless thing.
Yeah,
yeah,
I think that's one of the things that the real shift, right? Because you said I didn't realize what a sacrifice it was. But now you kind of know and you're prepared, like, okay, this is just how it is. This is who I am at the moment, and I'm willingly choosing to give this baby like in reality, I mean, this is the dichotomy. We're created to give ourselves like the gift of ourself. And motherhood is that gift of self because what better way? I mean, you're literally like that child is dependent on you for 100%, you know, pee, poo, sleep, eat, everything
Yep.
needs you. And so she needs you 100% and you give that 100%. And yet there's this that's where the love expands. That's where
Yes.
their love expands and your love for her. I mean, you just look at her and you're like, "Oh my gosh, she's just so beautiful. Of course I would want to do this, right?"
Mhm.
But back in the day when nobody, we talk about it, but when you're experiencing that, like, oh my goodness, this is what I signed up for 24/7, sitting there all the time, that's when we can go what we I call vicious thoughts. And I see it all the time. I'm on all kinds of groups and stuff, and people just like the mother is just so resentful because she hasn't quote unquote done anything all day, and then the husband comes home and well he's just sitting, like, and I'm like, dude, he's done his thing and you're still doing your thing. And yes, you've got to figure it out together, like the rest of the work, right?
Yeah.
Um, I know for us, one of the things for us that's really shifted is Steve was the nighttime parent. Just because when I hit my feet on the floor, I was awake for hours. And so when baby would wake up, he would get her or him and go change the, diaper and bring her back. And as long as I was like, horizontal on the bed, I was okay. Even if I didn't actually sleep, I was just resting. I could be nursing all day long or all night long or whatever. But as soon as I hit the feet, and the interesting thing about that is that now my youngest just turned 21. My kids call my husband for the night, and I mean he became the nighttime parent for all the things like, hey, I just threw, dad, I just threw up, or what, anything in the middle of the night, that was dad. And partly because I was, taking care of another baby, so he had to, you know, and so that's kind of an interesting aspect of really, again, knowing the sacrifice, experiencing the sacrifice, and willing to do it again.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Well,
And that's
anytime
another
hard.
thing.
why I like support groups too is because you find, I mean, so that worked for you. In my life with raising children, that didn't work for me,
Yeah.
and I think, Dallas is a huge support.
Oh my
And
goodness,
you
unbelievable.
just, that's just another area, in our other conversations we've been talking about it for like natural family planning, using that method of for family planning of your size of your family and charting and all that. It forces you to communicate. Well, having a new baby forces you to communicate. And
Yeah.
sometimes if your communication skills aren't on point, that can get frustrating. So here you are, a new mom, like just freshly postpartum. This baby needs you. If you got two other toddlers that need you too, and everyone's like, mom, 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 and
Yes.
there needs to be a way, a language to talk to your
I
husband to
love
be like, okay, I'm gonna need you. I'm gonna need you to step in here. And I find
Yes.
a lot of women sometimes get resentful in that they have to ask. But so many men, I mean, my boys were raised like they kind of had my, especially because my boys were first. So they kind of saw what went into all of it. So I feel like they kind of had a natural inclination of like they knew what was coming, a little bit.
Mhm.
But it's not uncommon for some boys have never, what if you're each from only your single children and you get together? I mean, no one's done this before. So it's
Yeah.
okay to be very specific and say, hey, look, I need this. And I just know there's a lot of moms that think like asking for help makes them feel, weak. I think generationally, I think that's getting way better in general. Like I
Yeah.
think today's society, people are more able to be like, that's not gonna work for me.
Mhm.
Yeah. I mean,
But
as a nurse, it makes me think of two terms between in the marriage. It's you have to be able to triage as a parent, which
yes,
which concern, which child,
I love
what
it.
needs my attention the most, and two, delegation.
I
So,
love
like
it.
a lot of marriage, especially with having kiddos, is being able to communicate, but also delegate. It's like in this, I am so fortunate to have such a supportive, wonderful husband who lives to be a father. That's why we are together truly, because even on our first date, we said that's all we've ever wanted is to be parents. And I'm seeing the dream accomplished. It's realized. He is every day just waiting, waking up, breathing, and just wanting to be a parent. And so another layer of how I am just so fortunate in my parenting journey. Um, but especially when you're sitting down to breastfeed a newborn who's constantly on you, it is a one delegation after another, politely, nicely. I mean, if you have one baby, it's, hey, can you fill up my water? Hey, can you go get me a snack? Hey, can you do the laundry? Because I'm nap trapped. I'm breastfeeding trapped.
Nap trapped.
Um, but then once you have a couple toddlers on top of that, it's here I am sitting and breastfeeding. Can you get this kid ready? And hey, her clothes are over here. It is this constant teamwork if you have a partner in your life that hopefully, if you do, then that partner is supportive and can can listen and hear you out that you need help,
Mhm.
again, but I'm very, very fortunate in the partner that I chose that that is a situation for me.
And
And
also that I want to just commend you, Brennan, because I mean, we do get to discern. Some of us don't discern as well as others. You and Dallas are blessed, but you work for it. You've worked for everything you have. Like nobody's handed it to you. So you are blessed, but it's not like you just sat back and everything was
oh,
handed to you.
totally.
That's for sure.
It's a lot
Yeah.
of work. It is a lot of work. I mean, I'm transparent with all of our siblings who are in relationships and friends and whatnot that Dallas and I have been to marriage counseling because it's innate that two different people who have two different upbringings and two different ideas of how to do things are going to struggle at times to communicate, when it comes to just having a household, having children, all of the things. And
Hmm.
so
Hmm.
I'm a huge proponent of if you are having issues, go get a third party.
Hmm.
Yep.
Hmm.
And so it is true. We have worked, have not always been so cohesive in the past, but commit, you stick it out, you work on it, and
Well, and
I'm
then you have the success of, you do have a 4.5-year-old and a 2-year-old that you guys have done that together and you've breastfed and you've made it over the hurdles. So, I mean, I guess I'm just mentioning that because as each stage, I mean, whether you homeschool or they go to school or number one, you have the world telling you what they think you should do. So it's
oh,
very
totally.
important to be able to go to your partner and say, hey, this is us. What do we want to do? That's
Yeah.
great
Yes.
that this is working for the Joneses,
Yep.
you know.
Yeah.
That is
And then
how.
it changes. I always used to think that, well, okay, so this is the plan and we're just going to stay on target. The plan never stays the same.
Mm-mm.
No. And even if the plan is working for one kid, it doesn't work for the next one.
Correct.
And
That's
Yes.
so that's a huge thing with having a new baby too, is that the second that you somewhat kind of figure your baby out, then they change.
yeah.
And
Yes.
so, you can never get too rigid. And
Yeah.
that was something when I had my second baby that I was way too rigid in the schedule that I had, the routine that I had with my first as a toddler. We had our groove going. We, did library on this day and nap time was about this time every day. And this is when we would read books and this is when we go to bed. And I was never like, it has to be on this time, but that's just our general flow. And then you have another baby and you can't be rigid. You can never get too stuck in, the phase that you're in. You always have to change and adapt and yeah, especially when you add new kids.
Yeah,
Yep.
exactly. Yeah. So let me ask you a question. If there's a mom listening today feeling discouraged and really like wondering if she can do this, breastfeed and have other kids, and what would you want to what would you want her to believe about herself?
I would want her to believe that she is made to do this. You
Love
know,
that.
we are all made to do it, and some people unfortunately do struggle a little bit more with certain things, have a baby who's got tongue ties or latching problems or whatnot. But at the end of the day, there's always resources. There's always
Mm.
people out there who want to help, whose they are, whatever grammar that works there, to help. And as isolating as it can be, the best thing that people can do is to reach out, to go online, to find local area groups, to find Lil HA League meetings, to, talk to a lactation consultant, to do anything that is supporting her as she goes down her journey. Instead
Yeah.
of withdrawing and it's really, really, it's hard. It's so hard to get out of the house when you have a newborn and everything feels foreign. But the best thing truly for a lot of women is to do it, is to get out of the house, even if you haven't showered in 3 days, and go to a meeting and hear other women's testimonies that they have also struggled and got through it. That's
Yeah.
that would be it.
That's
I love
beautiful.
that.
And
I love that because, we all crawl before we walk. So
Yes.
those
yeah.
first few times you go out into public and you have big dreams and you're gonna run all these errands, and after store one, you're like, we're going home. That
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's all we're doing, the one store.
Yep.
And that's
Yep.
not a failure. That's just a
No, exactly.
realization that you and your child or your children need something different in that moment.
Yeah.
Hmm.
You know?
Well,
I
I'm
love that,
also
Brenna. Thanks.
to glad you talked about the community in that one of the exciting things listeners, is Mama Vicky's going to have a community online. We're going to do a community online. We invite all mothers who breastfeeding, want to learn about breastfeeding, and you can go in the show notes and click the information and then register. You can find the date and the time and all that stuff. But, you know, this is the blessing about online stuff, right? Is that like you're sitting there breastfeeding the baby with your rocking chair. We would never be able to have this conversation, being in 3 different states, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes that is what it takes. I mean, ideally, yes, we want the in-person, we want the multi-generational household, we want the lots of support for people, but sometimes that's just not the ideal condition. And so we want to provide the next ideal condition of having a community and really coming together, and the friends that you've met, and how the community can be built, and supporting each other, and then having those, offline conversations and connecting and stuff like that. So thank you so much for taking time with
Yes,
us.
Brad, you've been
Absolutely.
fantastic. I can't wait for our listeners to hear what you have to say. This alone, I would know will give some mama out there like, I'm doing this. So thank you
Yes,
so much.
you got this. Anybody listening, you've got this.
I love it.
Yeah, awesome, awesome. Well, I hope every woman listening leaves with the simple truth that breastfeeding can get easier, not because you're perfect, but because you're growing in your confidence and receiving support and learning to trust both your baby and yourself. And as always, we want to leave a blessing to all of our listeners, but especially to you, Brenna. We want to give this blessing from St. Paul. So we're just going to close in prayer from 1 Thessalonians 5:23-24. In the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. May the God of peace himself make you perfectly holy, and may you entirely, spirit, soul, and body, be preserved blameless for the coming of our Lord Jesus Christ. The one who calls you is faithful, and he will accomplish it. Amen.
Amen.
All
Till
right,
next time,
divas.
divas.
God bless you. Divas, just as a reminder, please like, subscribe, and write a review on this podcast. Our goal this year is to get 100 reviews, and every little review helps for that goal. Finally, go to the show notes and click Contact Mama Vicki if you need any help with breastfeeding, or if you know of somebody who needs assistance with breastfeeding. We want to make breastfeeding normal and natural. God bless you till next week.